It's been a while since I've done an entertainment interview. I'm used to covering such heavy subjects, so I'm glad to be on something a
Oh,
little bit
yay.
lighter. So Erica, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Before I get into your new show and everything, you grew up in Montreal, and I don't know if you're a hockey fan, but wondering, what are you thinking of these Canadians?
I don't know what to think. I don't know. Are they still in it?
Okay, so we have our answer. Yes, they are still in,
They're
and
still in it. Or
they're one
like,
of the
where are
final
they?
four
How are they?
teams.
Final four. That's the best we've done in years, I think.
Exactly.
Right?
Okay.
Right?
You got it. So I guess you have our answer there, but wanted to see if you're a hockey fan. So
Obviously.
you have a new show out, which is
Yeah.
cool, and it's with our mutual contact, PD Beats, Popternative, which is pretty cool. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what this show is about, and maybe a little bit like the process of how it came to be, because it's a little bit different than what I've seen before.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a multi-step process. The show is about a girl named Erica Rhodes. She's an actress who struggles, but she thinks she's the shit. And like, she has her dad hire a camera crew. So it's kind of like a mockumentary about her and her everyday struggles while she's like pretending that it's like she's really successful. Um, and my friend Jesse Camacho and I wrote it together. He's hilarious and talented, and we just kind of loved running with the character and like writing the most ridiculous things. Like we love The Office, and we love like that unaware Michael Scott kind of thing, like completely oblivious to like how people really act. and and then we wrote it and we shot it and we didn't really know what to do with it. And then Peter, PD Beats, came to us because we went to college with him way back in the day, and he was like, I've got this, I want to launch like a scripted content section of my of Popternative, so do you guys have anything? And we're like, we do. So this is how it all kind of came to be, and here we are.
That's fun, and I actually had a chance to chat with Jesse last year. So for
So
those listening,
Jesse.
yeah. So we had a good chat, and knowing Peter from here in Ottawa, so that's interesting. I didn't even realize that Jesse went to college, so you had this little
Yeah, he
connection
dropped
going.
out like a few weeks in because he booked a TV show, but we won't hold that against him.
So one thing I found interesting, so the first episode's out as we're recording this, and what I found, and I don't know if maybe I misread it, but there was this moment where I'm kind of thinking, oh, it's like kind of like this spoiled rich kid, like haha, laughing. But she has this like moment. I don't want to like give too much away. I want people to watch it, but like this moment of reflection when she's talking about her friend Holly, and it's kind of
Mhm.
like this deeper moment. I mean, excuse me, share with what you can as the series progresses. But is that what you're kind of going with, where it's going to be funny, but like this sort of this maybe more intricate character that we're going to discover along the way?
That's a really good question because that's definitely what our intention is. Because we don't want her to be so unlikable and so much of a caricature that it's like it gets to a point where you're like, okay, I got it, I see this, you've done the shtick. Um, but where like the fronting kind of comes from a place of insecurity,
Mm.
and like deep deep down she knows that. So, and it's all just a front, like fake it till you make it
Mhm.
kind of thing. But for sure, and like in the rest of the episodes, there are definitely moments where you're like, oh my god, she's like the worst. And then at the end you're like, oh, it just comes from a place of horrible like self-doubt or lack. So yeah, very astute observation, because it's definitely like a theme we've ran with.
Yeah, I found that so like interesting, because like the whole time I'm like kind of watching, I'm like just thinking, I'm thinking social media. I'm like, oh, the person who's like the influencer, and like you're right, putting up this whole front, this whole facade of what they're trying to be, but really deep down, it's like this person who might be struggling mentally. And it just brought this really real moment into
Wow.
me.
Yeah, that's like such a deeper understanding than I've heard. So thank you for noticing that. That's great.
Um, I I know you kind of mentioned you guys just had fun with it. You know, you find like watching The Office and these funny characters. What is some of the other inspirations behind this? You know, does it? I don't want to say like, is this your life? But what sort of things like did you use and pull from to kind of make up this character?
Um, Good question. I mean, it's funny, like back on your last question, it's kind of, when it comes back to like the whole Office Michael Scott thing where like a lot of his stuff comes from like a place of insecurity
Yeah.
and um it's yeah, and it comes off as this like total lack of awareness. Which, in reality is so funny. Like, when you encounter those kinds of people in your real life, you can't help but kind of mock them in as kind of way as possible. But like it's this obliviousness where you're like, are you kidding me? Um, which, I think we all kind of know someone like that in one way or another, to some extent. And when you're in it, you're like, oh my God, this person is delusional. But then you look back and you're like, that was really funny. You're like, that was like ridiculous. So definitely like that's kind of a source of inspiration. And there's, we do think about it a lot. We write it all out, but then there's a lot of improv that comes out while we're doing it. So
Mm,
it's like, we've got a plan, we've got an idea, but we also run with whatever we're feeling when it's actually being made. So, and then we just see what works, when it comes to editing. So, otherwise, inspiration wise, I would say like The Comeback. I like the Lisa Kudrow show on HBO because it's kind of like a similar
I
vibe.
haven't watched that one.
She's
Interesting.
like, she comes back, like she was like a big deal when she was young, and then she comes back and she's like
Mm,
this older, sort of like passe star who's like making her big return to the industry. And like, there's a lot of ego involved. So yeah, definitely something like that. And it's also a mockumentary. So like if you're looking to compare it to something, definitely that. Very
right. That
funny.
makes me think of like I'm thinking of Dickie Roberts when you kind of mentioned that, like that old movie with David Spade,
Yeah,
child
exactly.
star trying to like
Exactly.
make his career.
Yeah,
Interesting.
exactly.
How like was this filmed over the pandemic? Is this something that you had already kind of like in your back pocket before, the world turned to what it is?
Yes, we shot the first episode before the pandemic. We actually
Oh,
shot it a few years before the pandemic. So when we were like doing some promo stuff, we were like, I did it as the character, and I was like, yeah, like we shot the pilot, and then like the pandemic, we shot the pilot in 2017, and then the pandemic hit, and it just threw a wrench in all of our plans. It's like you do the math. It's actually 3 years before the pandemic hit, but whatever. We won't ask any questions. So yeah, we actually had it, and we just didn't know what to do with it because we didn't really have like a platform. So we're very grateful to Peter for letting us use Popternative to like, get it out there to the masses.
yeah, that's what I had this conversation with a gentleman. His name's Bobby Del Rio, and it because my day job is in radio. I'm not on air. I do stuff behind the scenes, but I work for a very large company that has like W Network, HG TV, like all the Hallmark, all those sorts of channels that I know like you've worked with. Looking when I
Mm.
was doing the research, but I didn't realize the process of conceptualization, writing, filming. Like I didn't realize it took so long,
So
and that you
long.
could you could
Yeah.
like record it, you could have
Yeah.
it all ready to go, and it still might not make it for another few years. Like to me, that
Oh
like was
yeah.
just I'm so used to Hollywood, right? It's like you hear they film, boop, 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 and go.
No, it's sometimes, yeah, if you don't have a buyer or you don't have the network or, any of that stuff, or like they just, the network decides that year, they're like, we don't like this, then yeah, it could get shelved. And, you're just lucky if eventually it sees the light of day. So I'm glad that happened for us.
I'm curious. So, I mean, all I have to go off of is your IMDb. So please forgive me if I'm wrong. But like this seems to be like the first time you were accredited with writing and producing. Now, I've watched the interviews, like why you got into acting and everything. So I'm going to skip that question. But writing and producing, is this something that like you also wanted to get yourself into, and then like is that something you see a future, or is it just this one particular project that kind of came up that you really liked?
Writing for sure, which, it took a little while for me to be like, this is definitely something I'm going to jump in with head first. But it's been great. I've been doing so much writing over the course of pandemic.
Mm.
I've sold quite a few scripts at this point that are in the works. So the writing thing is something I'm gonna run with. I don't know if you believe in this stuff, but I went to a psychic a year ago, 2 years ago now, and she was like, "You really focus on the writing," and took her advice, and so far so good, and I love it. I'm really really enjoying it, especially collaborating with people that you enjoy working with is like such a gift. And like making something you're proud of is also great. Um, Producing, on the other hand, like that's a whole other can of worms because there's like there's like 1,000 things that you just don't even I didn't even know what it meant, you know?
Yeah, I still don't really know. I only kind of do.
Yeah, I it's like, yeah, okay, you've got like creative control, but then there's like the paperwork and the like logistics aspect and the budget, and you're like, like if that's not how your mind works, if you're like a creative person, it's kind of like, I can't believe I have to wear this hat. Um, but it's cool to like spearhead your own thing, and that definitely, it's good to have that experience. It's just definitely something that I'm feeling a little bit more challenged by. Not
Mm,
that I'm not challenged by the writing, but like writing, I love everything about, whereas the producing, it's like hit or miss.
a little more of the outside the comfort zone.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm curious and just pick your brain a little bit on the writing aspect, because I think when it comes to TV, and I'll use more of the sense of like network shows, right? Like people watch a show and they'll be like, "Oh, that's good, that's bad, whatever." But like, I don't think people understand the depth of what it takes to maybe go into writing a show specifically, like a script. So
Mhm.
like when you're putting that together, putting to shop around or to do your own project, like what sorts of things are going through your mind when you're like picking a story that you want to tell, or and how you're interacting with everything?
Well, the first thing is that it has to be something that you will back and feel passionate about and stand behind like more than 100%. Like, if someone questions you or asks you any questions, say whether it be in a pitch or any other time, like you have to know it backwards and forwards, and like just like speak with from such a place of like love,
Mhm.
because like this is your baby and this is like your story, so you better be worth it. And I mean, I don't think, I mean, I can't imagine like a writer coming into a pitch meeting and not being like over the moon about their idea, like you've made it this far. Um, so that's definitely like the first thing to consider is like, is this the story you want to tell? There could be many stories you want to tell, but it definitely, you have to feel very passionate about it. And then of course, I think that this kind of comes down to like the producing side of things again, but it's like when you're pitching stuff, it's like you have to consider a lot of other aspects, not just the creative side. So those are questions that are going to be thrown at you as well. And, if you hate doing budgets and you hate, like demographic stuff or like what have you, it's still something that you have to like be prepared to answer and consider when you're putting it all together.
Right.
So so it all leads back to there.
Always about the money.
So
So
yeah.
if you wanna you're like, "Oh, I wanna do like a fan fiction mockumentary of like Lord of the Rings," and then the budget goes, well, I don't know if we can afford to go to New Zealand." You're like, okay, maybe I won't write that script."
Yeah, right. And you're like, well, dead in my tracks, stopped right before it, cut off at the knees. Like, Go no further. But you'll find it if you're like, this is it, this is my dream, like you'll find a way.
Right.
That's what I think at least.
Interesting. Um, how has the pandemic been for you? I know you mentioned you were starting to write, but and like I kind of mentioned, it's been a while since I've talked entertainment. And the last time I kind of was talking with people, I mentioned Jesse, Trish Renoni. We it was kind of everything was in a stalemate, right? Because the pandemic, we weren't sure about
Mm,
lockdowns. So
yeah.
was it all writing? Like, what were some of the things you were able to maybe learn or grow in or pursue that you might not have been able to before?
Yeah. Well, I think we all went through a journey. I think that like what I can say I learned just from a life standpoint is that you have to somehow find comfort in not knowing what's going to happen, which is like the hardest thing ever. But then I go like, you're an actor, you're in the entertainment industry, you literally don't know what's going to happen ever. You can't make any plans. So I don't really know why it was so hard for me to grapple with, but anyway, it was. But then once you settle into knowing that like, okay, things are at a standstill, and this is what it is for now. Yeah, I was like, it was just kind of like, okay, what are you gonna do? And my writing partner and I really, really just put our foot down, and we just wrote and wrote and wrote, and it was such a great creative outlet, and it was just like it felt like we were really doing something productive with our time. And so I mean, it was great. It was great. Um, and so I came out the other end of it like feeling like I'd still accomplished something, even though there was so many unknowns, and the industry kind of slowed down for a bit. And we were even able to shoot another episode of Crossroads. So
Mm.
we were lucky enough to get to do that. And hopefully the rest of the episodes will be a little less restricted because the world's opening up. But it was good that we were able to get that done as well. So yeah, it was good. It was okay. It wasn't too bad.
I mean, despite like this like virus that threatens all of our health, it's
Yeah,
good going.
despite that the global virus that swept the world. Yeah, other than that, personally, that was a very Erica Rhodes answer.
uh, no,
It's all about me.
I completely agree that there was this moment where we all kind of had to, okay, this is happening. What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And some people were able to find that better than others. You found it in writing. I found it in podcasting and a whole bunch of other different stuff. So I mean, being resilient and adaptable is good. And I think in your case, I mean, that's pretty much your whole life.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if anything, it'll make me roll with the punches a little easier.
So I'm curious. Erica Rhodes is a rapper. Now the rapping hasn't been debuted yet. Can you rap?
Yeah, that was totally something that we drew on from my own life. Like anytime like I even drink a little, it's like I can rap. I can rap. I haven't been drinking, so I'm not going to rap for you.
That's
But
okay.
uh, but yeah, that's something that I enjoy doing. I think that we'll eventually, without giving too much away, we definitely wanted to make a music video at some point that we can use for the show. So
Well, I
stay
see the
tuned.
the Instagram account there that's been created. So definitely. And the TikTok, are we
An
on TikTok
outlet.
yet for Erica Rhodes?
No, I'm so resistant. I need to be better. I'm sorry.
What's your go-to track? Usually everyone has that one where they're like, oh my
Oh,
God,
that's a
like,
good question. No, it's all original beats. All original. Yeah, I'm more of a freestyler actually. So, it's not none that no, it's all original content.
oh, see, yeah, now you gotta get on TikTok. Like that, you'll go viral. Like that's right up your alley.
Yeah, again, I might develop a drinking problem, but you got to do what you got to do.
Feel that. Looking back in some of your other work that you've done before this project, I noticed a theme, especially a little bit before the pandemic, of Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Um, are you a fan of Christmas, and what were some of those experiences like? Because I know Hallmark. I mean, any woman I've ever dated absolutely loves Hallmark Christmas movies. Like that has just become Gen Z and millennial like lore. Like that is just
Yeah,
a thing
they've
now.
exploded. It's so funny. That's kind of like I've been writing a lot of Christmas movies.
Oh,
I
okay.
love Christmas. The experiences doing them were great. I don't know how to say this without like without sounding, well, I'll just say it. It's like so cool to go to work and like know that you're just doing like a joyful like happy thing that's just, you know, like no one's going to react negatively. It's just like a happy, we know what's going to happen, it's predictable, and like I don't know, it makes for a really pleasant work experience. Like sure, sometimes the weather is really unforgiving, and you know, shooting in Ottawa in February is not the easiest.
That's where I live, so I 100% know what you're saying.
You know, like I was watching one of the ones I did, and you know, I'm like, oh my god, can you tell I'm wearing two pairs of long johns under my jeans? Like, I look terrible, but you know, it's it's just it's such a fun experience. Everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone knows what we're making, and it's like, I just don't know how to. I'm just so grateful that we get to put something out there that's just like pure joy, you know,
Right.
because we
No
need that.
controversy,
No
no, like it's
controversy.
just
Yeah, yeah. It's
fluff.
just easy
Love it.
watching. Yeah, yeah.
And
Just
I think,
joy.
and I mean, I don't know your thoughts on broad or political, socioeconomic thoughts, but I think there's a lot of people need that sometimes, right? They're like the world is a lot. And even before this last year with the pandemic, just with social
Yeah,
media and everything that we kind
yeah.
of, as Bo Burnham put it, a little bit of everything all of the time. You know, it's like kind of like that release to forget for a while.
Yeah, that's definitely what they're there for. And when as long as you acknowledge that, like it's just it's great. Like I just it's such a pleasant experience. And um I think that's what we've concluded, you know, it's escapism, and no matter what is happening in the world, sometimes it's nice to just be like, oh, it's all gonna be okay.
Especially around Christmas time.
Especially
Uh,
around Christmas time.
I know. I mean, with any actor, sometimes like a job is a job. But is there like a genre of TV or film that you maybe prefer a little bit over the other? Like whether it's like a hardcore thriller drama, or it's that lovely Christmas movie, or it's this comedy style. Like, is there somewhere? I mean, from our chat so far, you're very like light, bubbly person making jokes all the time. Like, but I don't want to insinuate anything. Is there somewhere you like to lean a little bit more,
This is
especially maybe
all
in
an
your
act.
writing?
No.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also writing a thriller, which I find myself enjoying thoroughly. But you know what? I think comedy is like my first love, my first and true love. I think that's why that's why I was really into this project, because like we get to make it ourselves, and this is what we want to present to the world as ours. Um, Not that and you know, even with like the Christmas movies, even with the thrillers, like it's nice to have that like the light side, the funny side to it too. Because you know, sometimes it's not necessarily in the writing, but you can still give your character like a little flair, a little spin, like a little comedic angle. So yeah, I would definitely have to say comedy first and foremost.
Mm. Well, I don't want like I know you're writing it and working on it, like, but
Yeah,
where does your mind go when it goes to thriller? I'm a huge like I love serial killer drama, like catch that type of
yeah,
stuff, right? Like you don't have to give away the script, but like when we were talking about thriller, like psychological, like horror
yeah.
movies, like
That's totally it. More like, you know, like there's always a crazy person who's like infiltrating someone's life and trying to destroy them.
mhm.
You know, there's like that's usually the theme. But I mean, who doesn't love a good horror slasher? But I'm not writing one of those. But I do love that. I would love to do one. And you know, you just go where the opportunities take you. But I would absolutely love that. And I mean, psychological thrillers are so awesome because I'm like, how did you think of that? How did you even
Yeah, those
so
twists.
I have a great appreciation for a good twist. So yeah, twists, murder, sex, betrayal, all those things, try and fit it into one. You've got a perfect thriller.
Mm, absolutely. Um, Curious about, what's coming up next. World's opening up a little bit more. You're somewhere else than where I thought you were. Are you back to work? Is like things like when I say work, I mean like back to filming, like
Back
sets have
to
opened up
filming.
again and everything.
Yeah, it's back. It's the industry's back. It's very exciting. What's coming up? That's a good question. I feel like if anything, the pandemic has allowed me to like try and stop planning and just like see where
Mm,
the world takes me. Um, I spent some time in LA. I'm in Vancouver now. And gonna keep writing, doing my thing, and keep acting, obviously. And then we're gonna definitely put out some more Crossroads. So those are the concrete plans for the near future. But honestly, I don't know.
yeah, I like it's kind of just flying by the seat of the pants a little bit,
Exactly. Yeah, it keeps life exciting.
but it's a good time from what like I've heard when especially when it comes to Canadian TV. I know the government's working on legislation for like Canadian content and that like places like Netflix and those big companies have to like produce more. I know personally like in TV and stuff, like our company's making investments. I know especially for like indigenous, like there's been investments there. Like it's an exciting time right now for Canadian TV. And I know in the past, like when someone mentioned, "Oh, it's a Canadian show," everyone's like, "Oh, like wah,
Yeah.
wah." But like now it's like, "Oh no, like it's exciting."
Well, I think we owe Schitt's Creek a lot.
Right.
I think that, that was a huge turning point for Canada. Um, it's like a globally recognized show, and then you're like, oh, great, it's Canadian, and like we can make stuff like that too, and like we can compete. And I think that like that was a huge moment of realization for the industry. So I mean, I hopefully that it just continues, and um, with the government trying to stimulate that, like that's also great. It's really good to know that there's like efforts being made to push that forward.
Yeah, we have so much great talent. It's just a matter of getting
It's
the
our
support.
time. Yeah, exactly. It's all about the support and like the visibility and the recognition. And it's like, as much as it sucks to have to depend on other places to tell us we're great, the states namely, um it's like great to see it happen.
Yeah. When is I don't know if there's a timeline because, you're working on stuff. When is like the next episode of Crossroads kind of scheduled to be released? I don't even know
we're
if that's open, but
we're hoping within the next month or so.
okay, perfect. Right
Yeah,
around the time
yeah.
of when we're chatting. Excellent. That's perfect.
Yeah, because we don't want to let it go too long. We did want to, see how it goes and roll it out slowly, but we also don't want to go too long.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
Erica, thank you so much for joining me. This was really great. I know you might not use social media all the time, but where can people find you? They can't find you on TikTok
They
yet, but
cannot
that's
find me on
coming.
TikTok, but they can find me on Instagram. They can find me, Erica Deutschman, just at Erica Deutschman. It's all one word. Or you can follow Erica Rhodes or both. Erica Rhodes is Erica underscore Rhodes underscore Crossroads, both on Instagram.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
follow both. Highly
Yes.
recommend you
Yeah.
follow both.
Highly recommend.
Erica, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.